Hey everyone, I got a really exciting show for you today. I reached out to this individual based on a post he put on Facebook. And I did because I looked at the post and I'm like, this is what I wanted to be when I was 20, right? I've told all of you that I wasted my 20s getting a high paying job and spending money like it was water and had nothing left. And I'm like, what would happen if I started in my 20s? So we're going to talk to a young man, David Toupin, who is doing amazing things in his early 20s. And this is going to be a fun show. So how you doing today, David?
Dude, I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's just break it down. Let's tell everybody, what you sort of have today is in the middle of February, and then we'll step back and go, what's your goal for 19? But let's just lay it out for people. What's keeping you busy right today? What do you own today?
Yeah, so I acquire multifamily properties through a process called syndication. So I raise capital from investors, go out and buy large apartment buildings. So I right now own about 270 units, and I'm under contract on another 150 or so. So be close to. I think we just did the math before. I'll be about 500 by the end of this quarter.
Oh, that and again, we're going to unpack lots of these things because you just say I'm just out there like because they're just your world. But first off, 500
Yeah,
units
it's a
is
lot, big number.
is a lot, right? And it goes without saying, but we're just going to break this down. These are in various markets, right? It's not like they're all within a mile of your
Correct.
house.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So give some
One
cities just.
one one is within a very close radius. I actually live in one of my apartment buildings. Which we could talk about that story. It's kind of a fun story. This is like my baby, so
Yeah,
I live in one of them.
we'll certainly break that down. But where else do you own stuff?
So Michigan is where I live and where I bought my first three properties, around 120 units, and then I own one in Houston right now. It's 156 units, and then I'm buying 108 units in Atlanta and 136 in Fort Worth at the moment.
Yeah, and let's that's amazing, right? Already, but I'm pr- I really like your goal for 19, right? So why don't you share what that goal is? Because clearly you're on the path, you're a man on a mission. But let's share it just so other people can see what is possible.
Sure. I'm on a mission. Yeah. So my goal is 2,000 units by the end of 2019. I've kind of changed it up to be 10 transactions.
Ah,
And I've kind
okay.
of put more of like a dollar amount per transaction I want to make. And then, but yeah, so it'll come out to about 2,000 units is the goal.
That's amazing. And again, we just talked about it. I can't let it slide. So you syndicate or you use syndication
Yep.
to do that. Um, for people that don't know what it is, can you break it down into really bite-sized chunks for 'em?
Super bite-sized chunks. Yeah, totally. So syndication is kind of a buzzword nowadays, and essentially what it means is I do not have enough money to buy 100, 150, 200 unit apartment building on my own. I
Right.
simply don't. So what
Not
I'm going
yet.
to do is not yet. Yeah, that's the goal. So what I'll do is I'll underwrite a bunch of deals. It's a part of our process is we underwrite dozens of deals every month, probably about 50 deals every month that we get from brokers, sellers directly, whatnot. And when we find one that fits, that we hit certain numbers on, it makes sense, it's at a good price. I'll figure out how much money do I need to raise to buy this property. So, for example, this 96 unit apartment building that I currently live in, that I bought in late 2017, to do the whole project, renovate it, and everything, we needed about 1.7 million dollars.
Okay.
So what I do is I'll go out and I'll raise 1.7 million dollars from high net worth investors. It'll be people that come in any amount from 50,000 is normally our minimum investment. Some people at 75, 100. I had a couple of people at 250. And basically, I'll put together a group of investors into an LLC, and that LLC will then buy the property with myself. And I brought in a partner to help me sponsor the loan. We bought the property for 4.2. Down payment was 1 million. The other 700 was for renovations and closing costs. So to give you just a breakdown, but to get that big a loan on the property is like $3.3 million loan. I couldn't get that on my own, so I brought in somebody that had the net worth, liquidity, and experience to sponsor the loan. And for us putting this deal together, we get a slice of the equity in the property. It's kind of like sweat equity, right?
Yep. Yep.
So we set aside a 30% piece of equity for us as sponsors, and then the investors put up all the money for 70% ownership of the property. And then we pay investors a preferred return. We basically pay them a return on their investment. The base rate of return is 8%. And then anything over that property makes, we split 70-30 is kind of the basic model. So that's kind of the gist of syndication. Are there any points you want me to elaborate on?
Yeah, I think there's, you did a great job. That's probably the cleanest I've heard people talk about it. But let's also talk about the average hold time, right? You're not going to hold these for 100 years, right? You probably have, I don't know if it's 5-year term or 10 years to kind of do the value add, let the market do what it's due and then cash out, or is that not the case?
So every deal is going to be different.
Sure.
This one in particular, normally we do a 3 to 5 year hold, and our goal is to sell and get a certain IRR, a certain overall rate of return to our investors, right? We want to get, let's say, a 15% return minimum. That kind of is like an annualized return. This one, we decided, let's hold for 5 years. At that point, at the soonest available time, let's refinance the property, get investors back all their money.
Yep.
And this is where it gets a little creative. Once we get investors back all their money, they stay in the deal.
Right.
We stay in the deal. My equity goes from 30 to 50%. And now I don't have to pay that 8% base return because they have all their money back. So now I just get 50% of the net income directly, me and my partner. So that was kind of creative. And then we just hold it until we sell. So their equity goes down a little bit, but now they get all their money back, their risks back. They've earned returns across those first 5 years, and now they get additional income while their money's already out.
Yeah, this is what syndication / value add / hustle does for you, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there, high net worth individuals, who frankly don't want to do it and don't have to hustle that.
Doctors, dentists, attorneys, other entrepreneurs, real estate, somebody like yourself who has an extra $100,000 you want to invest.
Exactly. No, exactly. And they were like, been there, done that. Let the youngsters go. Right? Because,
do the hard work.
Yeah. Because again, you talk about it like it's nothing. You look at 50 deals a month and you underwrite 50 deals a month. And most of those you're not going to do squat with. That's not
correct.
That's not easy, right? Maybe it's easy or simple, but it's certainly a lot of work. And then you got to, you probably go from 50 to, I don't know, pick a number, 15, 12 that you actually got to go dig in and look at and see if the numbers are real.
Yeah.
And there's a whole process, right? I don't know what it's like. Like if you go from 50, how many do you write offers on and how many go to like kind of best and final? It's probably a small number.
Yeah. So I think every week, let's say we look at, let's say every month we look at 50 deals a month. Okay. I'll probably, on the surface, look at those. We'll toss half of those out right away because they don't fit for one reason or the other. The other half we'll dive into a little bit. Maybe 10, 15 of them will actually fully underwrite, run through the spreadsheet model that I've created in this analyzer. And then maybe 5 of them will put an offer on. Okay. And then 1 or 2 of them will go to best and final, and we'll be pretty close on.
Yeah. So again, that's work, people. That's,
it's normally like 100 to 1 of what, like 100 we look at to 1 we buy.
There you go. That makes sense. That's what I was looking for. Right. And there's work and effort all the way down the line, and you just never know, right? When you get the pile of 100, it's not like you go, hey, number 88, you're the one.
Correct.
No, you got to put the work in equally. So that's amazing.
Exactly.
So I'm curious, is there, obviously you're looking for size and value add and all of that. Are there markets you just avoid? I'm just curious.
There are, yeah. I think it's probably better to look at, what we target. There are certain ones I will just flat out avoid because property management companies, I know that, let's say Memphis, for example. Yeah. Sorry to anyone who's from Memphis, but I've been told from several sources, never buy apartments in Memphis. That's just one thing. Alabama too, I've heard it's not the best area for long-term growth in a couple markets in Alabama. Now, caveat, there are probably people that are killing it in apartments in Atlanta. That's their own backyard. I'm sure it's doable. I avoid it for some of those reasons. I look for certain markets with overall economic growth factors and metrics that are pointing to long-term growth. So Dallas, Fort Worth, I'm looking in. Austin, Texas, I'm looking in right now. I like Columbus, Ohio, Charlotte, North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia. Those are all markets that I'll look at deals in. And I have maybe 5 or 6 of them and I just focus there. So if I get a deal sent to me from outside of those, it might be a good deal, but I'm focused and I want to build a portfolio in each of these markets. So, I'll toss it aside if it's not a fit.
Well, again, that's that's amazing that you've picked that up at already a young age. Because a lot of times people just hustle and grind and it's all about that. But I can tell you, as somebody that's 20 years or more older than you, being focused and having that 7, 8 kind of, this is where I want, get economies of scale and leverage and get to know and build that kind of growing empire in different spots, you're going to be far better off than being scattered and unfocused. So
sure, totally.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I think it's tough for people. Is your listener base a lot of multifamily, single family?
Yeah, I would say mainly, multifamily probably, yeah.
It is a lot of multifamily. Okay. So I guess we talk big numbers, hundreds of units. I didn't start that way. The first deal I did was 12 units. It was a 12-unit deal, and I raised $160,000. So on a much more simplified version, it's pretty easy to go out there and find, an 8, 10, 12, 20-unit deal. If you're someone that doesn't have a lot of money, you go to a couple people at 50,000 or a couple people at 100,000, and you could really get into this space a lot easier way, right? We don't have to start talking millions of dollars, hundreds of units.
Let's do that. That's a great idea. Let's break down the 12-unit deal. So you stumble across or find, or someone brings you, let's talk about 12 units. What, 1s, 2s, 3s? What was the unit mix?
Yeah, so I bought my first 2 deals were both 12 units on the same street from 2 different brokers, but I'll go over one of them. So this is a squeaky clean mom and pop owned deal. It was built in the late 60s, 12 units, all 1s. And this was the owner that was out there every day or every other day picking up trash, keeping it clean. So it was in very good shape, and I really did enjoy this deal. And I think they were all renting for $625, the 1-bedrooms. We ended up going in, renovating a couple of them and getting those up to like $725. And the ones we didn't renovate, we were able to get from $600, $625 up to like $700. So pretty easily, it was just under managed and under rented because he had owned it for 30 years and not pushed the rents.
Yeah, they were friends at that point. Anytime I run into a mom and pop who like goes on and picks up the garbage, I'm like, yep, under rented.
Exactly. Under rented. Totally. So that was kind of the play there. We bought it for $560 or something like that. And about a year and a half later, we sold it for $660, $675. So that was that deal. And that one worked really well. We were able to get like a 10 to 12% cash on cash over that first year, kind of on like a quarterly basis. The other 12 unit I bought down the street, and this is just really good for people to understand. We bought for the exact same price, had 2 bedrooms that rented for probably another $25, $30 more. Yeah. But it was in much worse condition. It had a flat roof instead of a pitched roof. Ooh, yeah. Which we had inspected, but it ended up not being in the condition somebody told us it was in. So we had a lot of leaks. Been there. Yep. The plumbing was in worse shape. So we had a lot of leaks. We had some issues under the bathtub where the flanges were falling apart, and we just had to go in and spend like $1,000 a couple times to just fix these big leaks and problems. And the owner did not take good care of this property. So it was basically the same property, same purchase price. The worst one had larger units in their 2 bedrooms. And that property, we barely got out an 8% annual cash on cash return. And we were like trying to save money at every turn. We self-managed. Right. So I think the importance of that, and kind of the story I want to get across behind that is really knowing the condition of a property and underwriting it properly based on that, understanding what your costs are going to be, repairs and maintenance, insurance, turnover, all that kind of stuff. It's just really important to learn and understand.
Yeah, I can tell you that applies to apartments or houses. I actually, when I teach or I try to help people understand that are just starting out, I talk about 3 things, 3 quality differences. I mean, there's obviously a big range, but I have to break it into some manageable chunk. So I talk about slumlord properties that are basically shouldn't be lived in anymore, but maybe are, right? So you get those cheap, but you have to spend probably 50% of your purchase price bringing them up to the condition you're happy with. Yeah, seriously. Then there's the one that you were just describing, which I bought a lot of in the beginning, which is the well-used but under-rented, right? Those are dangerous because you get some of a discount off the purchase price or value. You tell yourself you're buying equity or value add or whatever, but then you go in and you go, shoot, I gotta spend 2x my down payment on the repairs. And then when I go back and look at, cash on cash or IRR, it's like, shit, I had the down payment plus double that repairs. Suddenly I go from what should have been 15 to 6.
Yeah. And a lot of times you under budget what you're actually going to have to do. So that's what we did. We didn't bring enough capital to the table to do the full renovation. So
yeah. The well used but under rented are dangerous because you can beat up an Excel spreadsheet pretty easily and frankly either lie or fool yourself. Those are dangerous. So
exactly.
Just to finish it out, the third one is the first property, right? It's clean, it's well run, managed, right? No repairs going in. That's the third one. But
sure. No, that's cool. That's a good way to break it down. Yeah, I see at least one of those three every other day. Yeah,
I'm sure. But the second one, that's the one. It takes some scars, right? You talked about your second deal. That's the one you're like, ooh, I can't do that again. Let's clean up our numbers and put a little bit more down or negotiate a discount to buy it, right? Because that deal looks better if you buy it for $50K less.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, they're priced a little higher because they're seemingly clean properties, but they're not.
Yeah,
exactly.
Go ask for that discount. So let's not forget to bring this down. I don't know this for sure, but I don't think you had the down payment. You raised capital for those first 2 deals as well.
Yeah, my first 3 deals, I didn't put a penny into myself.
But so let's talk about it. You were probably 20, 21 at the time when you do the first 12
units? I started when I was 20. Yep.
So, okay, you're a 20-year-old guy, good looking, good head and shoulders, got the numbers, and you lock up, I think you said it was $560. Did you get a bank loan?
We did, yeah.
Yeah, so you probably
a regional bank. Yep.
Yeah, so you probably still needed 30 or 35% of the down payment. So that's, let's call it $200,000. You're like, okay, I'm in contract. I need to raise $200,000 for the equity position. What do you do? What happens?
I mean, that's the way you describe it is essentially how it happened. Under contract, and now it's like, all right, shit. What do we do?
What do we do now?
So, because I'm a very analytical person. You hear a lot about like an analysis paralysis. I would kind of get that in the beginning, but I think I'm also blessed enough that I'll analyze, but I'll also dive in. I'll dive right in and try something out, take a little risk. So, I got under contract and was like, okay, who do we start with now? And I just made a list of people I knew that probably had some money, and
okay.
I think I had to call 40 people, 50 people, and they got 6 people to invest. So
okay. But I want to break that down, right?
Yeah.
So you get all, I don't know if you hear it, I'm sure you do, but I can tell you I hear it. What's more important, getting a buyer's list or investor list or finding a deal? Right? The chicken
finding a deal.
Oh,
now finding a deal.
No question. Finding a deal, right?
Yep.
And that's what you did, right? You found that clean property, mom and pop fixed it up. You probably put like a 45-day clock or 60-day clock to close, something like that.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. 60-day.
Yeah. And then how long did it take you to make those? I think you said 40 phone calls or 60 phone calls to get the 6 people to say yes?
Probably over the first few weeks.
Right.
Yeah. Those are the first couple of weeks. I didn't get the money. So that was the other thing, right? People give you verbal commitments. Half of those people that give you verbal commitments will not come through and actually write you a check.
Yeah.
If you haven't worked with them before, never trust it until the money's in your account, until the checks arrived.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. Check or wire. Wire even better.
Yeah. Check or wire. Yeah. Wire's even better. So, so I had that happen, and but those ones weren't too bad because I knew like most of the money came from other local investors that flipped houses and maybe had an extra $25,000 or $50,000 sitting around to invest. So I kind of just cobbled it together, and it was all just people in the network.
So again, did you put together, kind of the brag deck or just phone calls with numbers or pictures, or let's just lay it out for people how you position.
How did I raise the money?
Yeah.
So I did it so wrong on my first 2 properties.
That's
and
okay.
This third one, I did it it was a great learning experience. So I just put together a Dropbox link with the pro forma.
Okay.
Like the Excel sheet. We had a couple pictures and some details on the loan and whatnot, like a little 1-page write-up. So it was not clean. It was not easy for people to go in and just say, okay, this makes sense. Right. It was done the wrong way. And I think that's probably why I lost a lot of people. And for some reason, I didn't understand that till midway through my third deal, when I went from raising $160,000 on both of those smaller ones to raising 1.7 million.
Oh, that's a little different. Yeah, that's 10x.
That's a little different. And that I will have to say that was the hardest thing I've had to do to date, was raising that money right there. I underestimated how difficult it would be, and I did it the wrong way. I didn't, nowadays what we do, to give you the other side, is we'll put together a really, really nice looking packet. It's like a PDF presentation that has nice pictures. It's really up front, shows the returns. It's well laid out, and people enjoy looking at it and can see the description, everything we're going to do to the property. On this deal, when I raised 1.7 million, I did the same thing. I put a Dropbox link, some pictures. I just didn't. It worked the first time because I didn't have to raise that much.
Yeah, exactly.
And the second time I get through, and it's like, man, why is everybody just saying no? Are they even looking at it? And they weren't, because nobody wants to go through all that crap.
Yeah.
So I learned halfway through. I was like, okay, I need to put a PDF together, just send it out, and have pictures. It's all in one document. It's easy for them to read. It's right in the email. And so that's what I do now.
You got to remember, we're old. You got to be. You're pitching to old people, man. Not these freaking drop these apps on your phone. Come on.
Yeah, and nobody wants to see the spreadsheet that you're running numbers on either.
No.
And although mine's well laid out, nobody wants to see that. They just want to know, what am I going to make? What do you think I'm going to make? Can I trust you?
Yeah.
And does it, is there a good story behind it? And that's what I've realized sells deals right now, is trust and the story behind it. And you'll be fine. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. So let's just tackle the elephant in the room, right? You're 20 years old looking for 160 grand, or maybe 21 or 22 looking for 1.7. And you're going to people probably in their 40s or older. Did age ever become a factor, or experience ever become a factor?
A lot of the people I talked to that I didn't know. So most people, when they talk to me on the phone, they don't know I'm that young. You can't really tell I'm that young. For the most part, I know what I'm talking about, at least enough to
for sure,
people to not think I'm 20 years old, 23 years old. So, but the other people, I think they trusted me. They knew I was in the business for a couple of years, and the numbers just made sense on this deal. So, I was able to get it in. And then my partner that sponsored the loan, he brought about $500,000 or $600,000 to the deal. So,
okay.
Yeah, it was that the whole time period was just a blur for me.
Well, good for you. You were busy. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So have you had a successful exit? I think you mentioned you sold the 212s, right? So those were your two exits?
Yep. So we sold the 212. This one we're still holding. We've gotten offers in on it. We bought it for 4.2, gotten offers in on it for high sixes right now. So, if we were to sell it right now, we'd get our investors probably like a low 30% IRR. 33% IRR, something like that. So this was a phenomenal deal.
Right.
And kind of interesting story behind this one too. I don't know if you want me to dive in.
Yeah, go for it. Let's go, man. This is just us talking. I'm interested. You got me hooked. Sure.
So I'm gonna switch my speakers back here. I think these things are dying. These things are more of a pain than not sometimes. These earphones. So this one I mailed the guy. You can hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I mailed a guy who owned this property. It's 96 units here in Michigan, and little did I know, but he owned over $1 billion in real estate. He was a billion with a B. Yeah, big player. He's a huge player here in Michigan. He owns like the nicest hotel in the high-end town around here. He owns like thousands of apartment units, free and clear. He's like 71 years old. He started when he was young, like my age. And I sent him a mailer. It's just really simple. It says, "Hey, I know you own this apartment building here." I sent it out to like 400 or 500 owners.
Sure.
And he called me up and we had a good conversation. I did tell him that I was young. I was like, "Look, I just bought a couple 12 units, 23 years old. I like your property. I've driven it. It is within 15, 20 minutes of where I grew up. So I know the area very well." And he just liked me. And he was like, "Man, you just seem like me when you were young." So he threw me a bone.
Sure.
We negotiated a price. It was about $44,000 a unit. And, it took me, our contract, we were supposed to close, I think, due diligence, like inspection period and closing was total like 90 days. It ended up taking me 5 months because right before I had some money going hard. Some investors pulled out. I had to bring in another partner. Like I was telling you, brought in about 500,000-600,000. So he gave us an extension or two. But it was a really interesting deal. And I sat down with him after the fact because he could have sold it probably pretty easily for 4.6 to 4.8, another or 600,000 more. I just asked him, I was like, why did you sell it to me? Like you didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
I was probably more difficult of a buyer. I was less experienced. He's like, I didn't really need the extra couple $100,000. I just liked you. And what that did for me was, besides this deal, like kind of completely changed my life. What it did for me was just tell me relationships are everything.
Yes.
Absolutely, unequivocally, without a doubt, relationships are everything in this business. Number one, nothing else is more important. And integrity.
Yeah.
And
no question.
And that's what I realized. So going forward, to me, those are two of the most important things to me: integrity and building strong relationships with people. So it was just a cool experience overall. I've had fun so far. I moved in, like I told you, I actually live here. I self-manage the property. So I oversee my on-site employees. I have a full-time manager and a full-time maintenance guy. And, we've done really well. We've gotten rent bumps of $200 up to $400 on the units here, and it's been a good deal so far.
Well, good for you. I can tell you that this is the most relationship business there is. I made a mistake for the first 5 to 8 years and thought the magic was the Excel spreadsheet, right? That's where I thought the answer lived.
Sure.
Wrong. You work with people, sellers, buyers, tenants, bankers, inspectors, insurance. It just goes on and on and on. And the other thing you said is dead on, because if you mess with one person, it'll get around, right? Your reputation will be trashed. So
it does.
Yeah, don't even in other markets, right? This business, especially when you're in apartments, it's a pretty small circle of people that's in that game, and
it is.
Yeah,
you'd be surprised at how people know, stuff about you that you would never think, people you never met. So it is kind of small, tight knit, and word spreads. So you've only got one reputation. You better protect it. Yeah.
So I am curious about one thing. I think, because again, I've been in the game since 2003, and I did houses and then did small apartments, right? Big for me is 18, right? That's the biggest I own. I am a little bit curious about what you think about apartments. It sort of feels like no other time that apartments are getting bid up, and in some markets are probably overpriced, a lot like houses were in 2008. Have you sensed that at all or seen a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't been around through multiple cycles or for that long, but I've looked back at pricing historically and studied it, and they are higher than they've ever been in most markets.
Yeah.
It's really interesting what people are willing to pay for certain properties nowadays. And what that means for us is, I still don't budge my I don't budge on my criteria. We're still, our ultimate goal is putting together safe, strong cash flowing deals for our investors and protecting their money, protecting our reputation. And for that, we can't overpay. We have to find good deals. So what it means for us is we just have to look at more deals. They're out there. There's still good ones out there. We just have to look at 100 to buy one instead of 20.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's just you got to put more stuff in the top of the funnel so you still get one or two that spits out at the bottom.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but you're not wrong. It is pricey.
Yeah. I call it the Grant Cardone effect. That's what I call it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's an interesting character.
Yeah. Syndication. Yeah. So, I guess the other thing I have for you is, so when we step back and go back to when you just started, were you doing houses or anything like that as the very first one, or was the 12 unit your first deal?
Yeah, I did a couple wholesale deals, a couple flips. I was working with a guy that he was doing like 60 to 100 fix and flips a year.
Oh, wow.
In Michigan here. And, we connected pretty well. I was just looking to get in and network. And my thing has always been, having a good mentor, I think, is really important. And
Yeah.
I was willing to work for somebody for a little bit to learn a lot. And that was, kind of a good thing for me to step into, work for somebody who's been an entrepreneur for a while, owned a business for a long time,
Yeah.
and, learned that business, how to fix and flip. But I very quickly saw that was a job, and it
Yes.
wasn't like what you do, where you buy and hold everything. You don't flip anything, you don't wholesale anything, right? So I quickly learned that if I did that, yeah, I can make some decent money over the next 5-10 years. But why don't I take a pay cut and start doing the syndication thing, buy bigger properties? Yeah, I don't own 100% of it. I own a small percent of it, but I could start building long-term wealth and passive income. And
Yeah.
That's what I did. I just put my head down for 2 years, and that's wound up here.
Yeah, and again, there's just you're saying it so humbly, which is awesome. But there's a couple of things that are there that are critical for people listening to this. First and foremost, you had a long-term vision, right? You weren't chasing some artificial stack of cash, right? Via having another job, whether it be a wholesaling or flipping. But also, without saying it, I could tell you also were willing to sacrifice, right? Not only sacrifice income, which you highlighted, but you also were sacrificing expenses, right? Living below your means and doing what makes sense. And I tell people that it's not about offense, which means income. It's about defense, which means expenses. And that's the big thing I wish I did different in my 20s, right? I made plenty of money. I just freaking spent it all. And I wish I would have played better.
What'd you spend it on?
Stupid cars and watches and trips and just silly things. Nothing I had left. When I was 30, I turned around and said, wow, I made X and I spent X plus. And I was like, God, stupid person. So that's why.
I mean, that's good. That's good advice for a lot of people,
Yeah. Well,
in the end, it wasn't worth it to you?
No. I mean, if I would have started at your age at 20 versus 30, just think about that, right? So I started at 30. Sure, maybe I had a little bit head start because maybe I had more income, right? I made more at 30 than I did at 20, but not a lot. And I was done at 45, so 15 years. So if I start at 20 and I could get done at 35, I mean, what would you pay for a decade of your life?
Yeah.
That's a big freaking number, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to talk to you. I'm like, I got to talk to that guy. He is me. I want to be him.
Yeah. So for anyone out there, I think if anyone out there listens to Gary Vaynerchuk, you know Gary?
Oh yeah.
He's a big social media influencer, right? So he always talks about self-awareness. And I think that's one of the most important things for me is I was in college when I started my business and started getting into real estate. And I was like, man, I can keep partying and having fun and screwing around, or I can get ahead of the game and sacrifice a lot of that and just start working.
Amen.
And that's kind of what I did. So the first thing I had to do, and this is just like personal advice for anyone out there. I loved all my friends. They're good people. I moved out. I was in a fraternity house. I moved out. Moved back home with my parents for 3 years. And I actually didn't move out on my own until like 6 months ago. So I had to get away from distractions and, things that weren't necessarily aligned with what I wanted to do. So you always hear you're the sum of or the average of the 5 people you hang out with most. And that's what I did. I hung out with people that were where I wanted to be. And, that's exactly what I think you need to do.
Well, I can tell you this, just to tie these two stories together. If you don't make that sacrifice, which had to be hard and you had to get ridiculed and blah, 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 blah,
yeah,
you would have never been able to make that connection with that, I don't know what it was, 71-year-old billionaire who sold you the 96 units. It just wouldn't happen. You wouldn't have been the man that he would have sensed if you were some party animal, whatever.
Exactly.
So that sacrifice, while hard and uncomfortable, and probably 1% of people made it, it was a key to your success years later. So congratulations.
Yeah. No, thanks. So, yeah. And that's it. You have, so many people want it bad, but they're not willing to make sacrifices for it. And there are a lot of sacrifices you have to make. Like I was telling you, when I was in college, I had done a couple internships before I started this business. And I had 2 6-figure job offers coming out of those internships. The last day of my last internship, it was at a big consulting firm. I turned it down. like on that last day. I already know, and I've been listening to Bigger Pockets for like 6 or 7 months. I got my real estate license. I've been reading all these books. I was like, dude, I'm doing real estate. And I had no clue what I was going to do. I had zero. I was like, I'm going to flip houses or wholesale or something. I'm just going to figure it out. And so I turned down all those job offers. Everyone thought I was really stupid. They called me crazy. Like, what are you doing? And you know, it was crazy. I didn't make anywhere near $60,000 or $100,000 my first year. Yeah. I probably made less than $20,000. So, you know, but you sacrifice for the long-term vision if that's what you really want. You know?
Yeah, it's how bad do you want it? And I can tell you that a lot of people are held back by not making those. They look easy in hindsight, but they just feel so difficult. Whether it's saying no to the 6-figure job offer, moving out of the fraternity house. I promise you, when you look back at them, they'll look like no decisions at all, but they feel uncomfortable. You get ridiculed, right? I mean, nobody likes to be ridiculed. Your family, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sisters, your neighbors. Oh, what are you doing? You went to school. You're turning down $100,000. Blah blah. No, I have bigger.
Totally. Yeah, no, and you know, and I try so I'm on like Instagram, Facebook a little bit. And when I first started and got in, I like to post about what I'm working on because I'm so passionate about real estate. I love it, everything to do with it. And you know, you get people that like are still in that totally opposite mindset. They're like, dude, what are you doing? No, like look at businessman Dave over here trying to be an entrepreneur. Like that's real cool. So you know, it's funny, and you just got to block it out because it's you know, not everyone's in the same mindset, and I'm empathetic and understand that. So
yeah, good for you. So I got to ask. I always take this conversation. So we've done sort of what you're doing, how you got started. I'm almost scared to ask. So if you're going to be 2,000 units by the end of 19, where are you going to be in like 2022, 2023? Any idea?
Yeah, I've talked. So my goal with our company, myself and my business partner now, we want first goal is 10,000 units. That's like our big goal, and I think we can do that within 5 years.
Yeah, probably. Okay.
I know I got to change my mindset. I know we can do that within 5 years.
There you go.
We will do that within 5 years. So honestly, I don't even know after that.
Well, let's break that down a little bit because I know the game and you clearly do as well. So 5 years. So that's 2024. You have 10,000 units. You've probably had a couple of successful exits by then. How much of that do you own by that point? You probably own 30% of that portfolio. I mean, again, it's split across all these other assets, but you probably thought about that.
Yeah, it's split. I'll probably be closer to like 10% ownership.
Okay.
Yeah. 10,000 units would, that's over $1 billion probably in real estate.
Yeah, certainly. So that doesn't suck. Yeah. 10% of $1 billion.
That's the goal. So I want to do all good deals and you know, we're at the peak of a market. So I'd rather do less deals but do smart ones than just try and hit a number and you know, but doing semi-good or bad deals along the way, right? So,
and again, this is a game you can play for a long time, right? You're 23. You could play this till you're 103.
Yeah.
So you've got, I don't know, 10 business cycles to run through in your investing career. Yeah. So don't rush. Don't get too fixated on that number. Do the right deals. But I promise you, there will be a time in your near future. That's probably 2020, 2021, where the market will just change. It'll pivot. And then suddenly you'll be seeing deals everywhere. That day will come.
Yeah, I think so. I just want to be prepared for that. You know, that's the goal. So, you know, I always struggle with, I'm so young. I struggle with like, as I've started to see success over the past 6 to 12 months, don't get fancy, you know?
Yeah. I got one for you. I got one.
Yeah, please.
Always stay humble in real estate. The moment you think you're the man, it will fucking crush you.
Will fucking crush you.
Yeah. This game does not play. I remember people rolling around in Ferraris and Lambos who were flippers and house owners in 2008. All of them went bankrupt. They were worth $10 million. They lost everything because they thought they were magical.
Thought they were magical. Yeah. Yeah, and that's you know, that's a big thing for. Oops. I'm so sorry. Somebody just rang my bell. You mind if I buzz them in real quick?
Go ahead. Go for it.
Maybe we got to edit it out. Okay. Yeah. So that's something I mentally struggle with is like, okay, no getting fancy. Yeah, you're young, play smart. You don't have to go through the ups and downs that a lot of people go through if you just stick to the course and
yeah, do that. Don't get cocky. I call it in my book, don't get cocky.
Yeah.
Because the market will crush you if that happens. So this has been so much fun for me. Yeah. How can people get a hold of you? Because I know maybe you're looking for private investors. Maybe you're looking for deals. I don't know. Please share whatever you'd like. And let's see if we can't get people reaching out to you.
Yeah, so you guys can check me out. My company's called Obsidian Capital, and our website is obsidiancapitalco.com. And you spell Obsidian, OBSIDIAN, capitalco.com. So my email is david@obsidiancapitalco.com. And you can catch me on Instagram. My tag is the Real Estate Jedi. And, I'm a Star Wars nerd, so real estate Jedi. A lot of people call me Yoda because I'm really good with spreadsheets. I don't know.
Okay.
So
Yoda. All right.
Probably the best ways to get in touch with me.
Okay, very cool, man. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for saying yes to some guy you never met. It's been a great show.
Yeah, it's one of the most fun shows I've been on. I like it casual. It's cool. So you're a cool guy. Appreciate it.
Do me a favor and send me your address because I want to mail you an autographed book.
Oh, hell yeah. I will.
Okay.
We'll do.
All right, brother. Take care. Thanks.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.